I think a lot of times it really starts off with everybody when they set a goal is imagining the outcome.
The difference between a goal and a fantasy effectively is that a fantasy is a desired outcome with no strategic or tactical plan. And a goal should ideally be something that you're taking and you're saying, I want this outcome. Here are the things that I'm going to do to achieve that outcome. I heard a story recently about a consulting firm that adopted a client that really insisted on changing a workflow only to then go back the next couple days. I think it had something to do with emails. And they made a pretty hard left turn. And then they went back and they said, hey, consultant, I think we fucked up. How do we go back and change this? So when you think about clients, because oftentimes coaches will run into clients that don't have a goal that's very clear or meaningful. And I think today's episode on goal setting around how do you actually set appropriate targets? How do you actually take something from this fantasy and how do you actually put some legs on it? I think that's a really pertinent thing on the back end of, it's almost April. We're almost in Q2 of 2025. People are now coming down off of the New Year's resolution high. We know that roughly 25% of people are going to have dropped off of their goals. And then by the time June rolls around, 70% of people will no longer be interested in the things or be actively pursuing the goals that they had set in January when they were super hyped up, super excited. So at the end of the day, when we think about goals, when we think about how likely they are to be meaningful and actually get fulfilled on, we see that there's just this general disconnect when it comes to how to get someone from point A to point B and determining what the processes are for that. So, would love to know, in your opinion, what's the most important aspect of goal setting? Or what's your process for helping clients establish goals? And, completing goals, I should say.
I think a lot of times it really starts off with everybody when they set a goal is imagining the outcome. And the only thing they're fully understanding is the outcome of the goal, right? Like, oh, I'm going to lose all this weight. I'm going to gain this muscle. I'm going to sell all these things in this business, whatever it might be. And they give little to no thought about the kind of work, the road ahead, the things that actually have to be done in order to get there. Right. So let's take losing weight and looking a certain way as a great example, just for topic. Hey, I want to lose all this weight in 6 months and I want to be athletic looking, right? Like just not thin, but I want to be lean and I want to be able to perform and all this stuff. And in order to get there, in my mind, I need to lose weight. So the first negotiation is like, is literally just losing weight the thing that's going to get you there? Is literally just selling 1,000 of these things the thing that's going to get you there? Like, yes or no? Most people can't even answer that component of it, I would say, first and foremost, because they just don't really know. And if you've never been there, you don't know, right? It's hard. The second thing that comes along is we know, and coming back to the weight loss side of things, well, we should probably go through these cycles of gain weight, ideally lean muscle mass, lose weight, ideally fat, and you go up and down. And over time, you grow that lean mass, you reduce that fat, and you end up losing weight, more importantly, looking like that athletic build that you said you wanted to look like. But it's a up and down cycle. It's an up and down cycle that you have to repeat. So it's that cycle that, like, all right, once you get in, you start doing the work, you realize, I said, I want to be this thing in 6 months. And the reality is you could probably lose 20 pounds, but it's not necessarily something that's going to be sustainable or sustained. Same token, you could probably go out and sell $100,000 worth of a thing, but then you're going to struggle for the next 3 cycles of 6 months, 2 years, whatever, to sell those things again. And when people start to realize the work and the commitment and the consistency required in order to get there, it starts to become this part where, man, I can't figure out how to fall in love with that process being a part of my life for an extended period of time is not something I can identify with. I don't see that, whatever it is. And now all of a sudden it changes. So all that to say, I think the two major problems is that a people don't actually understand the outcome they're truly trying to create. I don't want to say like every single detail, but a solid like 85% of it. And then they have zero thought or input around the actual work that has to be done in order to go create that outcome. And when the work starts and you realize how much work those things tend to be, it's just not something that you're necessarily in love with. And your motivation and your reasons just, they're not there because you don't even understand why you're doing it because you don't even understand the goal.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And we see this a lot when we think about translating that into a car buying process, which for the most part, everyone's gone through. You show up to a dealership, you maybe have a vehicle in mind, maybe you don't. And by and large, people buy things that reflect how they want to see themselves or how something, translates into their day to day. And this happens a lot where people will want something that they can't necessarily afford or might not be the best financial choice for them. So they go in thinking they're going to have this one thing, and they have a dissatisfying process because now on the back end, it's like, well, these are the things that it's actually going to cost you. And this is where we're starting to see in the car market repossessions. And again, like the socioeconomic status of how the general US economy is right now, the car industry is drastically underwater. People bought vehicles way overpriced during COVID. And now we're starting to see that there's significant numbers of repossessions and stuff that are happening when people are like, oh, fuck this payment. This is for the birds, And so it's a very similar process in terms of any goal, where the difference between a goal and a fantasy effectively is that a fantasy is a desired outcome with no strategic or tactical plan. And a goal should ideally be something that you're taking and you're saying, I want this outcome. Here are the things that I'm going to do to achieve that outcome. And that's, if you take it one level in terms of more mature, that's cool. But now this is where Muhammad Ali had a saying of like, everyone has a plan until you get punched in the mouth. And that's where the value of coaches comes in terms of a lot of your clients will come in and they'll say, hey, I want to lose 20 pounds. And you're like, okay, cool. Let's set a SMART goal: specific, measurable, attainable, realistic, time bound, right? Like, okay, well, I want to lose that 20 pounds. Okay, well, by when do you want to lose the 20 pounds? You're like, and it's arbitrary. They're like, oh, in 2 months. You're like, kind of aggressive, but sure. Okay, then what's that going to do for you? And they kind of go down the 5 whys, and they have a very invasive, probing conversation with someone that may not even trust them in the first time that they're meeting this individual. And so, I think people are really eager to figure out the perfect goal versus figure out a general direction to start moving in, and then getting more clear on what that outcome is going to be based upon the behaviors and the trade-offs. So in our education courses, we have something called Willing, Able, and Ready. And we also have something called the trans-theoretical model of behavior change, which is effectively a psychological concept that how do you know when someone's actually ready to take on a new behavior or adopt something new? And you kind of take them from, and it's very similar to the problem awareness continuum. It's just more in behavioral psychology of they don't know their problem, AKA they're in the pre-contemplative phase. Then they go in the contemplative phase, which is where they start thinking like, oh, okay, I realize this is not giving me the things I want. This is not the lifestyle I want. I don't want to feel this way, yada, yada, yada. And now that's where they start to go into the preparation phase. So they don't know about it, pre-contemplative. Contemplative, phase 2, they start thinking about it. Preparatory, they start like actually putting the pieces together. They start learning the resources. That's more or less what we would consider solution aware, where they're like, okay, well, what do I need to do to start making action towards my goal? And then we start getting into the actioning, which is actually execution, right? Where people become product aware. Now they're hiring a coach, they're in the process. And eventually they go into maintenance, which is where they're just in the routine and they're getting more specific. And then eventually they have a relapse or they terminate. So either they get to their goal or they fall off the wagon. We know that those are going to be eventual things. So a good coach will start laying out the plan generally. And then as these obstacles come up, which if you don't discover them during the consultation process, which you can't, it's an hour-long conversation at most, you're not going to uncover every single thing that's going to stop this person from taking messy action. So you just want them to start taking a messy action and start stacking those behaviors so that way they can get practice executing. The same way that you can read about running a marathon, but if you don't actually ever run,
Yeah. Well,
you're probably not going to actually get great
it's
at
funny. I had a friend of mine, one of my buddies, talking to another friend of mine, both local.
it. Mm-hmm.
And the friend. He's like, ah, yeah, blah, blah, blah. Really want to start getting in shape, blah, 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 blah. My buddy's like, oh, you should talk to Steve. Like, good knowledge base, all this stuff. Like, whatever, fine, cool. So I chat with him. I'm like, all right, let's just hop on the phone. Like, let's just connect for a little bit and let me understand. And I'll give you a good first 2 or 3 steps, right? Like, I can start there and just help point you in a direction, and let's go. We get on the call and he's like, yeah, really want to lose some weight. All right, cool, great. Why? Well, I want to be back to where I was, I don't know, 10 years ago. And I'm like, well, is life today anything like it was 10 years ago? Like, I'm just curious, is that truly a thing? Like, what does back to where you were mean? All this stuff. And so we have this big conversation. I'm like, all right, before I can even understand anything, I need you to do 2 things for me. Just track what you eat for the next week. Like, if it goes in your mouth, just put it in an app, write it down. Like, I don't care. It doesn't have to be a lifelong thing. Just start there. And
You said
an
app.
app, whatever.
If it goes in your mouth, put it in
Yeah.
an app.
Yeah.
Okay.
Write it down, make a note, whatever it is, scan the barcode. Then on the other side, I want you to do an in-body on the first, day 1 and day 7, day 8, just to see what happens. I go, but don't change anything. Like, just do what you've been doing so we know what like life is look like. He's like, okay, yeah, perfect. I go, cool. Send me all the information once you do all that. It's like, okay. Well, 8 days comes and goes. No information comes, no nothing, no whatever. So I see him in the gym like 2 or 3 days later, just as I'm getting ready to leave. I'm like, hey, where's the info? He goes, oh, well, my wife, she cooks and it's hard to measure and this and that and all that. And so I just kind of stopped. But the really good news is I lost 3 pounds. And I'm like, got it. So I'm like, let's call him Bobbert. Hey, Bobbert, does that feel like kind of what I was asking for? Or does it feel like it's the exact opposite of what I asked for? He's like, well, I thought you'd be excited I lost 3 pounds. I go, if you're excited, I'm excited. Like, just keep that in mind. But you told me you wanted long-term planning, like all this stuff involved. And all I said was, don't change your eating. Just write down what you've been eating so I know how much you've been eating. Because I'm willing to bet now that you started to think about it, you're eating way less, and I have no idea what's going on, and you're just kind of reducing your weight because you're eating less food. So, did you lose weight, or did you actually just eat less? He's like, oh, well, I guess we can't figure that out then, huh? I'm like, yeah, we can't. And I'm like, I'm not going to guess. I go, I'm not a coach by nature when it comes to nutrition and fitness. I know a couple of things. I've been doing it long enough. I go, but if you want me to help you at all, it is my way or the highway, because you're a friend and it's free. And I'm not going to waste time on the stuff. And he's like, all right, I'll track. So tomorrow would theoretically be the week of him tracking. We'll see what happens. But anyways, he sets this goal. He has all this stuff. And he's like, literally day 2. Oh, I have all these reasons and excuses why I couldn't do that simple thing that I agreed to do. And I'm like, you just lied on the phone to me. I don't think you did it intentionally. Like, yeah, no, I'm in for the long haul and the sustainability and all these things. Like, all right, whatever. Guess what? I'm not that good of a coach. I'm not going to try that hard. So either do it this one fucking way, or I'm not the guy for you.
Yeah. And that's a lot of coaches will be in that space when they hire people. And this is when we think about people buying programs in 2025, that's by and large of like, do it this way or it's not going to work. And even when people do those things, like it's still hit or miss because everyone's going to respond a little bit differently. And when we think about the nature of goal setting, we want the outcome similar. It's a little red sticky, similar to the way that when you are going somewhere, you will put an end destination in your GPS. You're not like, hey, I'm going to take this route and this route and this route. I'm going to take a left on here on Lee Street and then take a right on Robert Street. And then eventually I want to end up Confederate Avenue. Don't know why I picked that analogy. I'm in Georgia. It's fine. But you're going down this route and people get so rigid on it has to go this way versus what Bruce Lee said, flow like water. And, you know, the GPS exists because what happens if there's some construction that you don't know about? What happens if, you know, it's rush hour and taking surface streets is actually going to be faster than taking 285 around Atlanta because for whatever reason, they've been doing the same fucking construction on the same 2-mile stretch for the last 27 years. And I'm not even exaggerating. That is wild. I left for Phoenix, came back, and they're still doing it. It takes me like 25 minutes to go 2.5 miles. Bro, it's not it. It's not the move. And so by putting in GPS, it actually routed me to some back roads, same distance, literally, but it took about 15 minutes. So point being is that goal setting effectively is like, hey, I want to get crystal clear on what it's going to take to get to the end destination, depending on the time of day, depending on what's going on in your life, depending upon what resources you have access to. Those are going to drastically change how quickly someone should expect that, right? And the potential level of frustration they should also expect on that process. And when I say frustration, remember, frustration, if you've listened to any of our previous episodes, is just unmet expectations. And that's actually on the part of the coach. So when we say like, hey, all I am is a mirror as a coach, I will reflect what you're doing and what you're getting and help you start to understand the bridge between the two and making better recommendations, better behavioral choices in your day-to-day that are more on track with the way that you want to turn out, right? So if you want to lose weight, generally speaking, you have to be in a caloric deficit, meaning you have to eat less than what your body needs to stay where it is right now. What did you do this week? So in your case of your friend, I lost 3 pounds. I would say, okay, great. So how did you lose that 3 pounds? What did you do consistently that we can replicate this next week? And it would be like a shrug, like, well, I don't really know. And as a coach, I would say, well, then I don't know what to recommend for you. So we're going to work on something called your adoption curve, which means that we need to master this skill. We're going to go as fast as you can adopt this skill, which means you need to practice. You ever seen a kid swing at a T-ball for the first time? It's atrocious. I was that kid, right? And you got to sit there, you got to walk behind the kid, you got to hold it, you got to literally move them through the skill. And that's the nature of basic rudimentary coaching for a lot of people that may not have the skill set, because everyone knows that they probably need to eat a little bit less and move a little bit more for the most part, right? But then what are the actual tactics that go into that? So we have this framework that we mentioned in our certification courses that the SMART analogy or the SMART acronym, it's great to generally set the goal, but it's not the most effective in terms of execution. So we actually have a different acronym that's the same, SMART, right? But the S starts for starting point. You got to know where you are, which means you need to conduct the appropriate assessments. If you want to lose body fat, you should measure body fat. If you want to get more cardiovascular endurance, you should probably go do some kind of run test, a VO2 max test. If you want to have a bigger upper body, maybe you should go do an in-body, maybe a DEXA, maybe some kind of body composition scan. Maybe you should go do some pull-up testing. I don't know, different things like that. The goal then determines what assessments are most likely to represent progress. And that's where you want to make sure that you have a good starting point so that we can measure, are you moving in the right direction? If you have no idea where you are current day, how are you supposed to know what's changing? How are you supposed to know what to recommend as a coach? So then the M stands for metrics. And that means that what are you measuring? Because if you're not measuring something, you really can't manage it. And you really can't say, hey, look at all this progress that you've had. And if as a coach, you are relying just on the scale to measure and demonstrate progress and efficacy of the program and your abilities as a coach, you are going to fail the majority of the time, right? Because if their weight doesn't change because they're gaining muscle and losing fat, you're going to look like an asshole if you don't know that they're gaining muscle and losing fat. They're just going to see the one thing that they care about isn't changing. So by doing some kind of body composition assessment, which I won't take a client unless they do an in-body every week. If they don't have access to that, they better go find one, because I'm not here to waste either of our time. And so I want to know if there's something called recomposition happening. Are they gaining muscle and losing fat? Are they just losing fat? Is the weight loss that they are seeing, maybe they lost 5 pounds, high five, amazing. It was 5 pounds of muscle. You're like, oh shit, that's not great. So that's how you get skinny fat and go through the repetitive cycle of weight loss, weight gain, and the weight gain gets more aggressive, right? So you got to S, starting point, M, metrics. What are you going to measure? 3 to 5 things. And that might change from the big picture to a quarterly picture, to a monthly picture, right? You might look at walking. Steps might be a metric that you measure, right? So then you're going to take those metrics, and in the A, SMA, you're going to create an action plan. Here's what I think you should probably do, right? Now you start to put things together. It's going to happen in this order. You can have whatever you want. You just can't have it all at the same time. Now, that takes on a lot of different potential avenues, right? And that's where the GPS really is going to come in, because if you write the plan that's perfect for someone on day 1, they're not going to be the same person on day 7, 14, 28, or 35. They're going to change day by day. Think about how many different variables happen in life. Do you eat at the exact same time every single day? Do you go to bed at the exact same time? Do you have the same argument with your spouse at the exact same time? Do you watch your dog take a shit outside at the same time? Do you work out? Yep. Right? Do you work out at the same time every day? If you're working out at the same time every day for 7 days a week, congratulations. You are probably an Android, and you probably are running OS GPT 4.5. Like,
my workout days,
it's amazing.
Weekdays, I am walking out my door at 5:30, 5:35 in the morning.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And we find that there are people that are super consistent, which those people tend to see significant progress towards their goals because they're able to get out there and execute that. But here's the thing, like, after you have an action plan, you also have to have the A in SMART goal, which is the R, refinement process. How are you going to change the things week by week? What are the main questions that you actually care about? And again, in coaching, and I'll beat this until it's dead, what do you want? What are you doing? What are you getting? What are you going to change? Those are the only 4 questions. It doesn't matter what kind of consulting you're doing. It doesn't matter what kind of business or industry you're in. Those are 4 very relevant questions. In business, what do you want? Okay, I want to increase my profitability. What are you doing? What are you getting? What are you going to change? And so that's the value of anyone that's in a service space. In a massage therapy, what do you want? Well, I want to feel better, or I want to move. I want to have more range of motion. Okay, well, what are you doing? Well, I keep doing bicep curls every fucking hour, and I have for the last 10 years. Well, no wonder you're going to walk around like this, right? You're going to fucking look like you do bicep curls all damn time, and you're going to probably have limited shoulder range of motion. So my point is that everything that you have right now is a function of the behaviors and the choices you made up until that moment. And coaches are just there to say, hey, are those behaviors and choices aligned with where you would like to be? And if not, what are some things that we can do and change or recommend that might take you some time to get used to and are palatable and going to lead you in the right direction? And that means that the last one is T, which I do agree that time bound matters, or the timeline, right? By this point, we should be here. By this point, we should be here. By this point, we should be here. And that's going to largely be relegated to how quickly people can adopt new behaviors. If you're really good, let's again use like a baseball athlete, right? If you're doing little league and you can't hit the tee, you can't hit the ball off the tee, ain't no way you're going to be ready for the major leagues in a year. Good luck, right? There's a developmental process that normally you hit milestones. Let's teach you how to throw. Let's teach you how to run. Let's teach you how to swing. Let's teach you how to catch. Once you can do those things, let's now add other players on the field. Let's add now time. Let's add pressure. Let's add more experienced players. Let's add a coach now that's yelling at you. Let's add parents that are heckling you from the crowd, which is hilarious, right? You start adding environmental distractions. And now that's where you slowly start to integrate and prepare yourself for the end result or the demands that are performance oriented, right? If you want to go and work at a Fortune 500 company like Goldman Sachs, you might have to go and, work a shitty internship somewhere where they treat you terribly and you work god awful hours. And if you're not used to that, you're probably not going to thrive in that environment. So long story short, that's what SMART should probably help in terms of getting someone from that specific goal, right, out and starting to put some legs on that thing. Starting point, right? What metrics? What's the action plan? What's the refinement process? And what's the timeline, tentative timeline for that process to start to unfold? That'll help you give them an understanding of what that is. And if you can't do that as a coach, you need to sign up for our empowered stuff, because that's where we'll actually have coaching calls and everything else and continuing education for you to learn how to do that effectively. It's cool that we talk about it and we give you the insight, but if you don't know how to apply it, go find a mentor to help you actually build your systems out. So that's all I have to say about that. But I mean, Steve, anything for you to wrap up the goal setting
No,
conversation or why
just
it's
a
important?
thank you for listening in today, spending some time with us where we break down the business of fitness and nutrition. Setting goals is a big one. Make sure you pay attention to that. Help with the clients understand your boundaries, understand theirs, and focus on all the things. Smash that subscribe button, hit that like button, throw some comments in there, and we will see you next time.